If you're a freelance web designer who constantly undercharges, this video is for you, because I did that for many years. Every single client, every single project. When someone would say, can you do it for less? I would immediately say, yeah, for sure, because I was terrified of losing the client. And I was always excited to accept the project and start working. But once I started the project and I saw all the value that I was providing and how much work it was, I always felt miserable. Fast forward to now, you best better believe that I charge what I'm worth. And that was thanks to this book. This amazing book was written by an FBI hashtag negotiator, a man who dealt with terrorists, kidnappers, and bank robbers in life or death situations. And the tactics he used to save lives, I used them to stop undercharging clients. The book is called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And before reading this book, I was charging 1K, 2K, sometimes 3K. But then after reading this and applying the techniques, I started charging 5, 10, and even over 40K for a single project. But before that, let me paint you a picture of how bad it was. My pricing strategy, if you can even call it that, was basically guess a number and immediately drop it when anyone questioned it. A potential client would say something like, I need a landing page to help me get more leads. And I would calculate in my head. I would be like, okay, so probably 20 hours of work. I want to charge $75 an hour, so that's $1,500. And they would say something like, that seems a bit high. We were thinking more like $800. And here is where I would completely fall apart, because my brain would start racing, right? And I would be like, oh no, they think I'm too expensive. If I say no, they will just hire someone cheaper. And I need this client. I haven't had a project in 3 months. And then I would start thinking stuff like, what if I don't get another lead for a month or 2 or 3 or 6? I should just say yes. So I would say, you know what? I can make $800 work. I negotiated down myself almost 50%, and they didn't even have to push hard. I did it for them. And this wasn't a one-time thing. It was every single client, every single project. I was burnt out and resentful of my clients because I was undercharging. And the worst part, I knew I was doing it wrong. I knew I was leaving money on the table, but I didn't know how to stop. Basically, I didn't know how to hold my ground without sounding arrogant or losing the client. And then I read Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that this book changed my entire freelance career. The shift after reading the book changed everything. And during the discovery calls, when clients asked for the price, I stopped treating it like a test. I calmly say, projects like this usually start at fill the blank, depending on the scope. So I will give you 3 tactics from the book that you can use the next time you talk with a prospect. So the next time someone is like, how much for the project? You be like, So tactic numero uno, never split the difference. Basically, the title of the book is the first lesson. And here's what that means. For example, in a hashtag negotiation, if the kidnapper demands $1 million and the FBI offers 100K, you do not meet in the middle at 550K, because splitting the difference means both sides lose. The kidnapper doesn't get what they want, and the FBI pays more than what they should. So basically what the author Chris Voss says is that your role in the negotiation is to find the right number, not the middle number. And once you know the right number based on value and what's fair, you hold to it. And here's how applying that changed my freelance career. Before reading the book, the client would say something like, can you do this for 1,000 instead of 3,000? And then I would say, how about we meet in the middle at 1,500? After reading the book, when the client says, can you do this for 1,000 instead of 3,000? I say, I understand that budget is a concern, but based on the value that this project creates for you, 3,000 is the right price. Here is why. And then I walk them through the ROI by saying something like this. This website is going to generate leads for you 24/7. So if it brings you even 2 new clients this year at $2,000 each, it's already paid for itself. And you will have it working for you for the next 3 to 5 years or even more. And you can add something like this. So basically, you only pay once and you have a very well designed and built machine working for you for years. Most of the times, if you do it correctly and they have the budget, they will say yes. Not because I was aggressive, not because I was pushy, but because I stopped negotiating against myself. I basically held to the right number. That's lesson number 1, never split the difference. Tactic number 2, the accusation audit. This is one of the most powerful tactics that Chris Voss teaches, but it's also the most misunderstood. And here's how it works. So basically, you list every negative thing that your prospect might be thinking about you or your services, and then you say it before they can. Sounds crazy, right? But here is why it works. When you acknowledge the negative thoughts in someone's head, you take away their power, because they cannot attack you with accusations you already acknowledged. But here is the critical part that most people get wrong. You only list accusations that are actually in their head. So basically, you don't make up random objections, you don't create doubt out of thin air. Let me show you how I use this in freelancing. Early on, I made the mistake of using it wrong. I would quote a price, let's say $3,000, and immediately I would say something like, oh, I know you think it's too expensive, even when the client hadn't said anything. I was basically creating an objection that at that precise moment didn't exist. That's not a proper accusation audit, okay? That's why I said before that this technique is very misunderstood. I was just insecure about my pricing, but here's how I use it now. When I'm talking with a potential client and they mention something like this, we've worked with other designers before and it didn't go well, I know what they are thinking. So I say, I get it. You are probably thinking, how do I know this guy won't do the same thing? What if I pay up front and get ghosted? What if he overpromises and underdelivers like the last guy? And you know what usually happens? The potential client says something like this. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm worried about. And now I can address each concern with something like this. Here's my process. Here's how we communicate. Here's my guarantee. And then if you have past clients, here's what my past clients say. By naming their real fear and not some made up objection, I actually show that I understand their position. And that builds trust, which is crucial for any negotiation. Here's another example. Let's say I know for a fact that I am more expensive than other designers, so my competitors, okay? And I offer my services to them for $5,000. And I know that they've gotten quotes for $2,000. Then I use it. And that's when I know that I am more expensive, okay? It should be a fact, not something that I imagine or my perception or whatever. It should be a fact. So basically, you only use this technique when you have information. So I would tell the prospect something like this. I know you've probably gotten quotes from other designers for $2,000 or $3,000. You are probably thinking, why this guy more than double? What I'm actually getting for the extra money? And oftentimes their reaction will be something like this. Well, yeah, we were wondering that. Perfect. Now I can explain exactly what they are getting. The strategy, the high converting website, the custom work, the ongoing support, the communication, everything. So remember, only use the accusation audit when the concern is obvious and real. So if a client tells you that they've been burned before, that's real, address it. If you know that you are more expensive than competitors, that's obvious, address it. So if a client hasn't reacted to your price yet, don't create doubt by saying, oh, I know this is too expensive. Just state your price confidently and wait for their response. So basically stay quiet until they react. The author teaches don't project your own insecurities onto the prospect. Make sure you address their actual concerns. That's the accusation audit done right. Tactic number 3, no is not the enemy. It's information. This one completely changed how I handle objections now. I used to be terrified of hearing no. The potential client would say something like, the price is a little bit too high. And then I would be panicking internally. I would say something like, I'm losing them. I need to drop my price immediately. And then I would just be like, okay, what if I do it for $1,000 instead? But here's what Chris Voss teaches. When they say no or that's too expensive, they are not rejecting you. They are just revealing information. No or something like that's too expensive could mean I don't see the value yet, I have a different number in mind, I need more justification, or I need to talk with my partner first. Your job is to figure out what it actually means. So instead of immediately dropping your price, start asking questions like this. What makes it feel too expensive? Or what were you expecting this to cost? These simple questions reveal the real objection. Sometimes they would say something like, well, we were thinking around $1,000. In that case, I'd say something like this. Got it. So for $1,000, you would get a one-page basic design with no custom features. Perfect if you are just looking for something very simple. And then I would continue with something like this. For $3,000, that includes one hyper-conversion optimized landing page, custom design, micro animations, and SEO setup, and 2 sessions of consulting after the project is completed to make sure everything's running smoothly. Oh, and if you don't see a lift in track conversions within 6 months, you can request your money back. Which one of those sounds closer to your goals? Most times, if they have the budget, they will choose the $3,000 option because it's a no-brainer offer. When you effectively show the difference in value, the higher price makes sense. All right, so here are the 3 key lessons from the Never Split the Difference book. Number 1, never split the difference. Find the right price and hold to it. Number 2, the accusation audit. Address real concerns. Don't create unnecessary ones. Number 3, no is not the enemy, it's information. Ask specific questions to uncover the real objection. After reading the book and applying the tactics, my income skyrocketed. And that can happen to you as well if you do it properly. Now, here's the thing. Reading the book is step one, but to actually use the tactics in real conversations, that takes practice. Because when you are on a call with a prospect and they say, oh, that's too expensive, your brain goes into panic mode. Because it's hard to remember all these tactics when you are live talking with a prospect. You need to practice. That's why inside of the Elite Group, my premium mentorship program for freelance designers, we have a book club designed for busy people. But we are not just reading and discussing books, okay? We are doing live role-play scenarios. Here is how it works. You get on a call with me or another member, and then we act as the potential client. And then we'll start coming up with the typical objections like the price is too high, I need to talk with my partner, or this and that. And then you practice holding your ground without sounding arrogant. You practice the accusation audit with real concerns, not fake ones. And you practice asking the right questions when they say no. And then you get live feedback. That sounded defensive, try this, try that. Or perfect, that was exactly right. Because the gap between knowing a tactic and using it is proper practice. And not only that, you will also have access to the full roadmap to go from 0 basically to 5 to 10K per month. And I will help you along the way. And as you can see here in the Elite Group's calendar, we have multiple coaching calls every weekend. You can ask me questions and I will keep you accountable to make sure that you are advancing. And this is only for people that are serious about building a successful freelance career. It's designed for beginners, people with a 9-to-5 trying to escape, or people switching careers. And also for more experienced freelancers that are struggling to get clients. We have members getting amazing results because the group is very high quality and we want to keep it that way. So if you are serious about freelancing and you really want to make it, go to wdcelite.com or click the link in the description and you will see all the information you need to join. And remember, get this book, Never Split the Difference. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video.